So let's start with yesterday. The inquest was very interesting, I thought. Today we're going to talk more about other people hearing at least 2 screams that night. So I think that is, again, looking at something actually happened. So it says, Noah was in a lower mood, very weepy and more affectionate. Wednesday morning began with police constable reviewing evidence about visiting Fiona Donohoe's home. The court was also shown the transcript of Fiona's 999 call, which she described Noah as crying that day. And we know that, right? We know that this happened. All of the inquest is on my YouTube already if people want to watch on there. It's Hayley_comment_crime. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, Kirsty, so much. So we know that when Fiona called the police, she said, I caught him crying in the afternoon. And when I asked him, he said he was actually laughing. So we know about that. Miss Donohoe also told about Noah's interest in the 12 Rules for Life book by Jordan Peterson. And he enjoyed it to the point where he wouldn't put it down. But this was not new or unusual for him at all when he was reading a book. And I'm like this. If I'm really enjoying a book, I'll carry it around with me everywhere, whether I'm cooking, when I'm in the bathroom, when I go anywhere. So I don't see this to be weird. Miss Campbell said the police officer gave an account of some of the events surrounding Noah's disappearance and was materially different to that of mother's Fiona. So this was brought up yesterday as well, that what the PSNI report in Fiona said she didn't say. And there seems to be no proof or evidence that she did say what she said. In a statement, the officer said Miss Donohoe described Noah as very weepy. And she said, thank you, Tartan Touch. Thank you so much. I love that gift. I love autumn. And Miss Campbell said that's not featured in any of his notes. It's not on the computer from the PSNI. And Fiona saying I wouldn't have used those words. Like I wouldn't have said weepy. I would have said he cried that day. And he said he was laughing, which we know she said because the call was heard in the inquest. She said the constable's statement gave material difference to what Fiona actually had said on the call or what Fiona is saying that she said. And the officer said, yeah, my statement is just based on what I remember from 5 years ago. Well, I'm not sure you should just be guessing what you remember from 5 years ago. If anything, you should have written it down. And we know yesterday the police had written a total of 6 lines in the time when they were at the home speaking to Fiona, which is disgusting and disgraceful. When questioned by Donald Lunny, representing the PSNI, on the officer's correspondence and logs, the issue of Fiona Donohoe having arranged counselling with the school with Noah was revisited. Asked if the difference between Miss Donohoe seeking or being offered counselling by the school was of great importance, the officer replied, my focus was on finding Noah. Not enough that you wrote any notes, though. The hearing is recommended after a short break and is now hearing from Tanya Brown, who lives on Premier Drive. And if you remember yesterday, there was a great need for the PSNI and the infrastructure team from that city to say that it was impossible for someone to have got from where the culvert storm drain was into Premier Drive. And we had a lot of people who lived on Premier Drive said, actually, yeah, you can go through loads of slip areas there and come out on Premier Drive. And this may be because of what we know is coming next, which is that Miss Brown witness statement said that she recalled hearing 2 very loud screams on the night of Sunday, June the 21st, the evening that Noah went missing. She said, I was lying in my bed reading. It was a warm night. I had my bedroom window wide open. I don't know. I heard what sounded like a scream, but it didn't sound as if it was close by. It sounded like a girl screaming. She then went downstairs to alert her husband, who was asleep. She woke him up, but he hadn't heard those screams. They both went to the back garden where she heard the screaming kind of coming from that direction. We stood in the garden, and that's when I heard the second scream. I stood outside for about 5 minutes before coming back inside. She initially thought it may have been teenagers in the area, and the following night, Monday, June 22nd, Mrs. Brown said she became aware of a missing child. She contacted the police to tell them what she'd heard, as she had felt she had a duty to inform them. Miss Brown has been questioned by Mr. Lunny, who again asked the witness yesterday who heard one scream. He said, do you think it could have been a fox? And again, this woman said, I've never heard a fox scream. I don't know what a fox scream sounds like. I have no idea. She said it was high-pitched and it was definitely from a human. Hey, Kelly. So then there was lunchtime. So after lunchtime, a man said he was woken up by a white flash. Resuming after lunch, the inquest hears from a man who says he was woken by a white flash the night the schoolboy went missing. Are they? I've not heard one. Oh, I remember Mr. Chocolate used to do that stupid thing where he'd pretend to be a fox screaming. I need to have a look at what they sound like. Grant Brown, who lives in Premier Drive in North Belfast, which must be Tanya Drive's husband, then I take it, told the court he was sleeping downstairs yet when his wife told that she had heard screaming. He got up and went to the back garden. I took a look, couldn't see anything. Then I heard the sound of a muffled scream. It sounded like a girl's scream. It didn't sound like it was close by. Mr. Brown said he returned inside and fell back asleep on downstairs. Around 3 a.m, I woke up. A white flashlight torch flashed in my kitchen window. Okay, so this is a man who lives on the same drive as the woman who felt somebody tried to break into her house at 3 a.m. So we've got someone with a torch through somebody's window, and then we have someone's door being tried because the old lady said, I just covered up my head and went back to sleep. I was terrified. I just stayed there till the morning. Hey, just Joe. So that tells us right now that there is something significant happening around Premier Drive. Either they're looking for somebody or something has happened. This, again, is new information to most of us, I think. So this is what we're up to today. And today is a massive bits of news, but it's very few and far between. There was a lot of legal jargon in between. So this is to me, as we had someone yesterday saying they heard one very loud scream they thought was a teenager, possibly a female teenager. But I think all young kids pretty much sound the same when they're screaming. It could have been Noah, it could have been someone who saw something who's screaming. We know that a man now sees a white flash through his window like a torch. We know yesterday an old lady said that at 3 a.m, which is exactly the same time he's seeing this flash, that somebody tried her door handle to get into the house very hard. And we have a couple here saying there was at least 2 screams in that area on the night that missing child was in that area. To me, this is all very hopeful stuff because, again, we're putting pieces of the puzzle together. And there is more kind of information coming forward. So I imagine we are going to... I think we're going to have a lot more kind of answers, but also a lot more questions at the end of this. This is what I'm wondering about. Obviously, it could have been Noah trying to get help. It could have been somebody looking for Noah. Like, what do I think happened? I can't really speculate too much because we have to not speculate during this inquest because we've been told not to. But my heart will always say that Noah Donohoe was murdered. I believe the graffiti that was in the area at the time, and I believe that the PSNI do know who killed Noah Donohoe, and they've been covering up from day one. They tried too hard not to find what happened. They tried too hard to not tie anything together, to not find the CCTV. They didn't even raise an eyebrow when it was drug addicts found trying to pawn a young child's property who was already found dead. They said, well, it's not linked. They just found his backpack. Like, come on. Like, this is ridiculous. Even if you have sense, you know that a boy of 14 who had never been to this area before did not know this culvert existed, the storm drain. A lot of people who had, lived in that area did not know. I know it's a completely different area. They did not know it existed. You also have to account for the fact that Noah started to strip his clothes off. Who was looking for him that he felt like he wanted to take off anything that identified him? Or had somebody done something where he was overheating, where his body was in a state where he felt like he had to get the clothes off? Why did no one question when they found clothes in different variations all around that area? And if Noah had really, for me, if Noah had gone into that storm drain himself because he was terrified or hiding, to me, after dark, he would have come back out at some time, got back on his bike, which was still against the wall, and tried to get home to his mum. Nothing else makes sense. Nobody goes into no matter how scared you were, at some point you would have come back out. You would have tried to get help. There is nobody who is going to go into a storm drain and think, I'm just going to stay until I'm dead. The water wasn't even deep enough to drown him. It's not like he was in there and the water was so over his face he just drowned. There is nothing here that makes any sense. And I believe the main problem here is the PSNI wanted it to be either a suicide or an accident, and so they never investigated it properly. And because of that, in any case like this where a young boy, exactly, Susan, and that is connected, and the young girl who was caught with the bag knew Noah, lived on the same street in the hostel, which was full of drug addicts, as was the man, and Noah went out the night before. So it makes sense that Noah was going to meet someone who was trying to get him to do something, county lines type shit, And they took his headphones. The next day that he ended up giving them, or they took a laptop. Was he trying to pay them off to be left alone? What was going on? But the whole puzzle here tells you that something happened. Something happened. Do you know what I mean? Were they trying to force him into it, Lulu? Were they saying, like, you need to do this for us, you need to do that, it'll keep you and your mum safe? And he said, look, I'll give you my laptop, take my AirPods, take this, take that, like, leave me alone, please. There has to be something. There was no, hi Julian, there's no reason why Noah would have gone into that storm drain when he was terrified of the dark and just think, I'm going to lay until I'm dead. Why did the PSNI, why did on the first week of this inquest, did several local people say when they were questioned, the PSNI were around that storm drain throughout the whole time Noah was missing, on and off? Why did no one see his body then? How could they say it was already searched? Where did he come from then? You have to... How did he drown in like this much water? Doesn't make any sense. They said I can't remember what they said. I think they said drowning. They said cause of death was drowning, and they said he had no other injuries on him, but he was, if you were drowned in a storm drain, let's say, or if you were drowned in a bath, they would be exactly the same injuries. No, storm drains are not full. Thank you, Ange. So they kind of just run through a little bit like a water, like kind of a stream, and several times a day it kind of rushes. So this is what you're saying, Bexley, is absolutely correct, right? Every police force in the world is supposed to do an investigation a certain way. So when you have a young person or a suspicious death or someone that you can't account for why they would naturally just pass away in that situation, you start it as a murder investigation. You collect all of the forensics, all of the evidence that you can, and as you go along, when you start realising, oh no, this is natural causes, now the autopsy says this, you've lost nothing because you've gathered all of that information. The first thing when he was missing that the PSNI should have done is collect the footage from every single local CCTV camera, because some of them are recorded over after 48 hours, some are 24 hours, some are 7 days. So you should have collected it all. And when Noah's body was found, you shouldn't have been on the news straight away saying, oh, it looks like he's done this to himself, or it looks like an accident. Like, you don't know that. It's not even clear to someone going to the area and finding his body how he even entered that storm drain or why. It's one of the most baffling cases I've ever seen. I've never seen a 14-year-old boy who is a pubescent teenager who is shy and aware of his own body thinking, I'll just take my fucking clothes off. And I'll just go through a part of the city where I'm not even comfortable, not even particularly wanted. I'll just strip off because this is going to make me more accepted here. Like, why would he do that? And what we're seeing through this inquest is quite clearly a lot of lies from the PSNI. Look what that woman said the other day. She said, I never said he had a head injury. I told you he fell off his bike. He got back on it very quickly. He had a helmet on. I never once alluded to that he had a head injury. Never. And the PSNI were like, that's what her statement says. She says, not from me. Now, she's putting her life in danger saying that. We know how Belfast operates. We know about the cover-ups. We know about the paramilitary. We know about all that stuff. So her saying that, and she's like, no, I don't want that on record that I've said it. I haven't. I saw him get straight back on his bike. We've got Fiona today saying what the police are saying I said in my original statement. I never said. I never used weepy. I never used those words. And the thing is, once someone's been highlighted as being a little bit corrupt or lying once, we now know you're a liar. And once you're a liar, we can't trust anything you say. It's not like liars just lie once, do you know what I mean? So at this point, there needs to be an external investigative body coming in that have no ties to Belfast to investigate this case fully. And, Donald McIntyre has worked with Fiona for years now. And I trust that man. I definitely trust his judgment in crime cases and investigations. He says murder. He doesn't make any of it, none of it makes sense. And he's been to the scene, he's climbed into that storm drain. This young lad was so full of promise. He was so clever. Yes, he had emotions far beyond his years because of his cleverness. His IQ was off the charts. He was good at maths, good at playing the cello, all of these different things. He was an amazing young man. However, just because he was obsessed with the book at the time doesn't mean that he was living word for word for that book. Fiona said every book he read he loved. He loved poetry books. He loved all these books. He loved these podcasts. But the PSI keeps going back to that. And they're trying to pick apart words in that book to try and make out he's struggling with his sexuality or he's just a really sad person. And I believe Fiona when it comes to her son. And I made a video a minute ago in support of Fiona saying I was fed up with all the trolling she's getting. The 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. The people on Facebook who were like, well, she should have noticed her son was missing that night. Fuck off. Like, come on. They call it sneaking out for a reason, because teenagers sneak out. She was asleep. She has every entitled to sleep during the midnight hours. And anyone who feels like they have to say right now, like, wow, she should have known. Kids, especially teenage kids, they do stuff all the time. We're not aware. And anyone who could say hand on heart here, your kid could never sneak out of the house as a teenager, and you would know. Like, fuck off now. And I just don't, even if you really believe that, do you have to really say it now? Do you really have to say it? Like, always victim blaming and victim shaming. She's lost everything. She's lost her heart, her soul, her son. Like, she is the bravest woman I've ever come across in my world. She is so brave, and all she needs is support. She doesn't need all these negative words and stuff. What does it do for anyone? Do you know what I mean? What does it do? Do you think she doesn't think to herself all the time? Like, I wish I knew where he's going that night. I wish I'd found him as he was come back in, and like, he would have broke down and told me where he'd been. Do you think that's the what ifs don't eat her alive? Do you think she doesn't think to herself, like she spoke about on podcasts, like, I wish I told him he couldn't go out that night. I wish he said he couldn't go to Cave Hill. But as normal mothers and normal parents, we all said, we all said when it come to lockdown, our kids had suffered. We worried about their mental health. We worried that they'd ever be the same. Lockdown was so hard. The kids weren't ready for it. They weren't built for it. We all saw differences in our kids. So you know, if my kids had said, can I go out? I'd be like, look, they've had no socialisation for months. Like, of course you can. He told her he was going to meet two of his closest friends. And that's the thing as well, when someone just said that. If there was no crime and he did it to himself, why the need for the PII? And basically, that is one of the biggest things, right? PSNI have put a hold on all of the information to Noah, that it can never be seen by the public. And they said the reason for that was to protect the public. What are you protecting the public from? If a young lad, a 14-year-old lad, has had an unfortunate accident that, God forbid, we hope never happens again, and we can put stricter storm drain instructions in place to save other kids, what are you hiding? What are you hiding? Because I haven't seen any other case, even where kids have been violently murdered, where we've closed the files down. Maybe up until trial, but not after that fact. And I'm hoping that comes up very soon in this inquest. What are you hiding in those files? What did you lock down? Noah's phone was found in a park that had been lobbed into. We know that came out last year, around October, when the other guy who was doing the inquest quit, that the last image on Noah's phone was a strange handprint like this, and it wasn't Noah's. So who had his phone in their hands? Do you know what I mean? There's so many questions here. The graffiti, the local people, one of the brothers that unalived himself just after Noah's body was found, who has been rumoured to be a part. There's so many things that people have to answer, but the PSNI have fucked this. And I really hope, and I think the best we can hope for, because they're never going to come up with a murder verdict, let's be honest. But they need to answer all that, Max. They need to look into it all. One of the things they mainly need to do is have it as an open verdict, and an open verdict means it can be reinvestigated. I think that's the most we can kind of hope for, is that it can be reinvestigated. So an open verdict would be the best kind of possible outcome I think we can hope for in this case. Getting anything else is going to be very hard to do. Drowning, Lippy. But the main rumours and the graffiti basically said that Noah had been taken to a certain floor of an apartment block and he had been drowned in the bathtub. So he very well could have drowned and then been placed in the water there, because they may have decided to take him to the stream around the back of there, which I think would be the criminal's kind of original thought. Let's go put him in water. Who, Mags? Me? Or who would you like to apologise? Me or Fiona? You know, I think they would be thinking about putting him in water, and then when they see... You want Fiona to apologise? For what? To be fair, you can just get the fuck out of my life, I'm going to be honest. I won't have anyone talking bad about Fiona Donohoe in here. I hope you apologise, you absolute CUNT. I don't know. Fuck Max, man. Fuck her. Weirdos. Thank you, Ashley. I won't have anyone say anything. Do you know what I mean? Fiona deserves the whole world, and she's been failed from day one. And do you know what? Fiona has consistently thanked everybody who searched. She thanks Noah's army all the time. She thanks everyone who turns up for like the walk in the streets. She thanked every single witness who's got up in the witness box. Fiona Donohoe is not someone who feels entitled to anything. Yes, she prays for justice. Yes, she gives everything she can to get justice for Noah. But not at one point during this inquest have you seen on her social media where she said, if you heard screams, why didn't you tell me sooner? She's just said, thank you. Because she understands what life is like in Belfast. She understands how much it would have taken for every witness to get up and tell a story, a version of events. She knows that people are risking their lives. She knows how hard it must be. And she has absolutely apologised, that they have to do that the PSI have put in that situation. And she thanked them from her and Noah. She showed nothing but praise for Noah's friends who took the stand. She said, I know it wasn't easy, like you loved him like I loved him. This woman is the most gracious warrior I've ever met. And the only person, you're right, that have to apologise is the people that murdered Noah Donohoe, because they had put Fiona through years and years of hell. They took this young boy's life, and the PSNI have helped cover it up. And I'll say that with chest. Right, guys, I'm going to go because I'm going to go and have this dinner with my children, and I've got a live to do tonight. I've got cases to get ready for tonight. Thank you to everyone. Be so respectful. Let's just keep praying for Fiona. And like I said in my video today, if you see these posts on Facebook where they're talking about Fiona, just like flood them with like love and blue hearts for Noah, so she doesn't see all these troll comments, because some of these people are, I'll just say they're cunts, man. When they're literally on a post and it's talking about how there was screams heard or how Noah was found, and they're like, well, if she was a real mum, she would have known that he went out that night. Like, nah, fuck yourselves, man. The fact that you're publicly saying that on social media when this is Belfast case and it's their heart, and both sides came together to look for Noah and find Noah. I know that both sides are showing nothing but support for Fiona in this, and she has thanked both sides for standing strong for Noah. So I don't want people to make it about anything negative. One thing I'll never have in my life, like Mags that shithead a minute ago, is victim blaming or victim shaming. And because Noah is no longer with us, Fiona is now the victim of what happened to Noah. She's living without her son. He was her only child. Like, he was her heart. So on my channel, we're friends with Fiona. We'll always support her. She comes into the lives. She's welcome into my lives. I'll always have nothing but respect for her. If I could even be 10% of the mother that she has proved herself to be throughout these cases, then I'm winning, because she is truly amazing.